quick story time. And this is just I'm just gonna jump straight in and, like, have it as a rant, have it as a quick story, and then I'm just gonna get out of here. So, this is a story about me and my roommate. So, me and my roommate were super good friends in high school, okay? Like, best friends. And I had this thing happen to me, and she was the only person who acted like she cared. She even showed up to my house and was like, "Are you alright?" After that, that's when we really got super close, and it was like, we gonna be best friends for life. Well, we moved to college together. Bad decision. Do not move in with your friend from high school. Like, I don't care if you're best friends, like, you've been friends since you were, like, 4, or if you became friends your senior, don't do it. Just don't do it, because you two become completely different people when you move to college, and it's just, it's so, like, it's a shitty situation. So anyway, we moved to college together, and we're all excited. She starts making friends, I don't start making friends. I call my parents saying I want to go home. My parents were like, stick it out one more week. And then I joined 2 organizations in 1 week. So I'm like, oh, cool, I'm starting to make friends. Well, that's when her friend making started slowing down, and a lot of people were just kind of like, it's just your roommate. I'm not going to tell you her name, because I'm going to protect her privacy. Okay, anyway, so she got a boyfriend during our transition week, and then they broke up, which was kind of sad, because it was like, he dumped her over his ex-girlfriend, and it was like, it was a shitty situation. And then she got another boyfriend after that, and they only dated for like 2 weeks, but they were like in love, and he basically like lived in our room, and that was like extra shitty, because I was like third wheeling all the time. Like, I would wake up and be third wheeling, and it was just like, this is the worst. And like, we would both have 8 a.m. classes, but this dude didn't have class until like 10 a.m. So you had to be quiet while you were getting ready in the morning, because you didn't want to wake him, even though he didn't even live there. Like, he didn't even live in the same dorm as us. No, he lived in a dorm that was all the way across campus. That was like one of the older dorms. Well, I mean, our dorm was old, but like, his was like, his and the neighboring dorm next to it were like the oldest dorms on campus, because they had turned one of the dorms into an office building. So he like lived in our room, and like for the first couple days I was like, you know what, this isn't that bad. Well, then his stuff started showing up in our room, and it was like unnecessary stuff, not like clothes and stuff, but it would be like, he brought his stuff to shower with, he brought food, he brought all this stuff, and he was like starting to eat my food and shit. Like, this was not, no, you don't live here, I'll fight you. So he starts like basically living in our room. My roommate wasn't like the cleanest person. Like, her stuff was everywhere. I like tried to keep the room tidy, and I like tried to tell her like, hey, could you maybe clean up your side for a little bit? And she'd be like, oh yeah, totally, I'll do it when I get off work. And she never did, and so I would like have to clean everything, and it just sucked. So anyway, then her and that boy broke up, because he was like, she's way too clingy, I can't deal with this. It's basically like being married. It's like, you did this to yourself. What do you mean? And so she was like devastated, like extra devastated, because like she didn't really have any serious boyfriends in high school. Just kind of like us, like hanging out. And like, I had the occasional boyfriend, and I had a boyfriend like my entire senior year of high school. What was that? Oh, it's something irrelevant. Anyway, so I had a boyfriend my entire senior year of high school. I tried to break up with him before college, because I was like, I don't need you anymore, because I'm gonna be a freshman in college. I was dumb. It was dumb. Anyway, so he was like extra devastated, and I was kind of devastated, and I ended up taking him back, and like, we were on and off all the way through my first year of college. It was really bad. So now we're like kind of getting back together. I don't know what's going on with that. Anyway, back to the story. So she, like, one time we went to this apartment complex that's like all the way across town from campus, and we were just hanging out, and she had like, I don't even know, she had like a few beers, but we were like party hopping before that, so she had like a couple beers at each party, and I was the DD. And I was like, yeah, no, we're gonna have fun, I'll DD for you, don't worry about it. And I took her to a couple Greek parties because I had joined a sorority, and so that was like you're in. Like, you could bring like one person who wasn't Greek with you. And so I was like, yeah, don't worry about it, I'll bring you to this Greek party, and then we'll party hop and it'll be great. So we go to this apartment complex. She has like 5 beers, I think. I'd like to say it's like 5. Anyway, so I'm having to like, and she was a relatively like smaller girl. She was like really lean at the beginning of the year. And so, and this was like September. Like, this wasn't even like deep into the year. And she had 2 boyfriends. So I'm like, I have her arm like over my shoulder, and I'm like carrying her back to my car because I'm like, we need to go. We need to leave. She sits in the front seat of my car, and I hear ringing, like she's calling someone, and I'm like, roommate, who are you calling? And she's like, I'm calling my ex because I miss him. And I'm like, she is drunk calling him, are you serious? And he doesn't pick up because he's done. And then I get her into our dorm, and like the RLs are like making their rounds real quick because it's like 1 a.m. And so I'm like, we gotta go, like and she stops and sits on the stairwell, and she's like trying to call him, and I take her phone out of her hand. I'm like, no, we need to get up to the room. And so she's like, oh, okay. And we live on the 3rd floor, and there's no elevator because this building is old AF. So we go up the stairs, and I unlock our room, and like I try to get her in bed, and she's trying to call this poor boy. Finally he answers. And so I'm like, let me see the phone. And she's like, no. And I'm like, let me see the phone. So she eventually gives the phone to me. He's like, what do you want? And I'm like, I am so sorry. She's had a little bit to drink. I will try and get her under control. He's like, please do, because I can't deal with this. And I'm like, no problem. So I hang up, and then she starts throwing all of his stuff that he left, like, across the room. Like, you're making a lot of noise, and we literally lived next door to our RL. So it was like, you need to shut up, or we're both getting in trouble. I finally got her in bed, got her to go to sleep. It was just a big ordeal. Well, then after that, she was, like, super depressed. Like, really depressed. And, like, I guess she was having problems at home and stuff, and it was just, like, it was difficult. I would come home from classes, and, like, she would miss her classes often. Like, she would just sleep through her alarm or something, and I would try and wake her up, and she would just be like, no, that's okay. So, I, like, tried to get her to, like, go out and do stuff, and she was like, no, and she was, like, always sad. Every time I walked into her room, she was always, like, watching Grey's Anatomy, or, like, something that just would make you cry on purpose. And it's just, like, why would you do that to yourself? You're already sad. Anyway, so, after a few months of being sad, I don't know if you know the app Yik Yak, but, you know, our town's Yak was, like, pretty lit, okay? Like, there was always stuff going on. People would post party addresses, people would, like, buy drugs off, I'm not even kidding, like, people would buy drugs off this app. Like, it was bad. Like, it was always, everybody was always doing hood rat shit on this app. Like, I kid you not. It was the worst. And so, no, like, she was like, hey, so, I might be going to this party. And I'm like, where is it? And she's like, in Glen Rose. And I'm like, okay, do you know who's throwing it? Like, that's pretty far. Because, like, Stephenville and Glen Rose are, like, 45 minutes from each other, but, like, that's so random. And she was like, no, it's on Yik Yak. And I'm like, yeah, no, I have a feeling if we show up to that party, we're gonna get skinned alive, and they're gonna wear us as, like, birthday hats. I'm okay. I'll pass. And so, my roommate leaves to go to this party on Friday. Don't hear from her. By this time, it's like Sunday afternoon. And I'm like, I'm starting to get worried. Because, like, usually she would disappear for, like, days. And I wouldn't hear from her. And it would just be, like, normal. It would be, like, she would come in and, like, check in occasionally to make sure I knew she was alive. But other than that, not really. But this was, like, different because she went to a place that, like, neither of us knew. She was just like, I'm gonna go to this party and I'm gonna have a good time. Even though it was, like, a stranger's party. So I was like, oh my god, you're gonna die. She shows up on Sunday afternoon in some, like, random dude's truck. Not even wearing her own clothes. And I'm like, roommate, you good? And she's like, Courtney, I met a boy. And I'm like, oh, son of a bitch. No. And this is, like, I'd like to say this is, like, mid-November. So the semester is almost over. She's like, I met a boy. And I'm like, son of a bitch. Like, okay, what's his name? And she's like, his name is undisclosed. And I'm like, okay, what does he do? And she's like, he's a ranch hand in Glen Rose, and he wants to come to school here next semester. And oh my god, you have to meet him. He's so sweet. If you know me, you know I hate boys. Like, boys are great, but boys are also the worst. I hate boys. So I'm like, okay, that's fine. She's like, you need to meet him. And I'm like, bring him over. After I have, because at this point, I had, like, sorority stuff going on Sunday and Monday nights. And so, after my sorority thing, she brought this boy over. It's like, hey, can he stay with us for tonight? Because, like, you know, his place doesn't have, like, central heat and air, and it's, like, really bad, and I don't want him to be there alone, even though she's been, like, staying with him in this place for, like, 2 days, just, like, hanging out. And let me tell you, this place, she said it was, like, an apartment or, like, a small house. This place was a literal shack. Like, I kid you not. Like, this dude had a mattress on the floor, and he didn't even have, like, water. Like, he literally did not have central heat and air or running water. This place was a shack. And I'll get into that later. So, this boy comes over. I can already tell he's going to be a problem. One, he had a weak handshake. And if you know me, you know a handshake is a big deal. Because if you have a weak handshake, you're probably a weak moral person. Or you're just a weak person in general. So I'm like, okay. Next, he wore steel-toed boots and really tight Wranglers. So I'm like, this does not equate. No, I don't know if I like you. So he stays the night, and I had bunked our beds so that way we had more space. And so she would, like, get her shit off the floor because she was, like, at this point in the semester, her stuff, like, I kid you not, covered, like, half the floor. And so she finally, like, kind of picked up, but not really, but it's fine. Because after this, I don't have to deal with her. So this boy stays over. I don't have class till, like, 10 a.m. the next day, so I'm like, okay, I get to sleep in for a little bit. Great. At 7:30 in the morning, and this is where things get western real quick. 7:30 in the morning. I wake up to the bed above me moving. And I'm not just talking like somebody's, like, moving or, like, getting down from it. I'm talking, like, moving. Like, moving. And I'm, like, sitting there, and I look up at it, and, like, you can see the mattress moving and stuff, and I'm like, you've got to be fucking kidding me. These people are having sex above me. Are you kidding me? Are you serious? Oh my god. And so, like, I'm sitting there and I'm like, okay, so and this is, like, a really bad thing on my part, but I'm like, so we have this group of, like, my sorority sisters that, like, all hung out together, and we called ourselves the Honeywell Ratchets, because that was, like, we all lived in the same dorm, and our dorm was called Honeywell, so we were, like, and we're kind of ratchet. Honeywell was just kind of ratchet in general. And so we called ourselves the Honeywell Ratchets. I take my phone and I put it on Snapchat because I'm petty. And I videotape the bed moving. And I put the timestamp on it. And I sent it to the Honeywell Ratchets and they were like, I would kill someone. And I felt really bad after that because it was like, that's a personal thing. You don't need to do that. Anyway, so after they finish doing the did, I'm still so salty about this. This is the worst. After they finish doing the did, I get up, and for those of you who know me personally know that I do not function without coffee. Like, I'm a bitch without it. I get up and I make myself coffee, and I'm just kind of like standing in the middle of the room, like just looking at them, and I'm like, I hate you guys. This guy has the audacity to ask me, can I have some? And I'm like, do you live here? No? Do you pay for it? No? Okay, then no. He was like, so, what are you majoring in? And I was like, being a bitch and alcoholism. He goes, oh, dude, same. And he, like, tried to high-five me. And I was like, look at me. We're not friends. We're not. No. So he was like, well, okay, I can see you're passing your classes. Like, just being that guy. So he, gets up and leaves. And I text my mom during my first class, because I'm like, this is outrageous. I text both my parents. I have my parents in a group text. I texted both of them, and I was like, this is ridiculous. And my mom flipped out. She was like, no! Oh my god, no! And so she, like, threatened to tell her mom, and I was like, no, I don't want that to happen. I just wanted to tell you, because it was traumatic. I had her ex-boyfriend, the one that she called while she was intoxicated, I had him in that class, and I told him about it, and I was like, dude, you need to help. And he goes, I jumped off that crazy train long before it left the station. And I'm like, no. So my mom finally calls my roommate and has a discussion with her, and it's this whole big long conversation. And she, like, my roommate comes in and tries to act mad at me, because, like, on the times that she wasn't there, I had my ex-boyfriend my ex-boyfriend at the time that I had broken up with for college. I had him over and stuff, but it was always, like, when she wasn't there. It wasn't, like, while she was there. And so she was, like, trying to be mad at me, and she was like, I just wanted to say that I'm really sorry about the situation that happened. And she was like, anything you can say to me, you can say in front of undisclosed boyfriend. And she was like, he wants to talk to you. And so he was like, I just wanted to apologize for what happened this morning. That's extremely out of character for me. Which, by the way, he's lying, because he's actually a terrible person. Anyway, so I'll get to that in a second. And he was like, that's really out of character for me. And I was like, I'm a firm believer in second chances, so I'm just gonna let this one slide. But you are never allowed to stay in here ever again. And he was like, alright, that's understandable. And I was like, and let me tell you, if you do something like that to disrespect me or my roommate again, I will climb you like a tree, rip the eyes out of your head, and feed them to you. Do you understand me? And he's like, yes. And I'm like, yes, what? And he goes, yes, ma'am. And then I was like, now leave. So I talked to her, and just like, I'm so sorry, and she's like crying and shit. And I'm like, okay, like, I can't be mad at you, that's fine. Because at this point, we were still pretty good friends. So then, this is when shit hits the fan. So her mom calls my mom and is like, tell me everything you know. So my mom tells her everything. And so my roommate's mom calls her and tells her everything and is like, we're so mad and disappointed and stuff. And then my roommate comes home and she doesn't talk to me for like a week. Like, she's just like, I can't believe you told my parents and stuff. And like, we got into like this heated discussion, and she was like, you told my parents. No, I did not tell your parents. My mom told your parents. I tried to keep your secrets. I really did. But like, it's hard. Like, there's no reason why I should have to keep secrets for you. You're an adult. And so she got, like, really mad at me. And she was like, you said you were gonna kill me in my sleep and all this stuff. And it was, like, not true, but whatever. It was insane. And then, after not talking to me for, like, a week, she calls me. And I'm, like, out with one of my sisters or my friends or something. She's like, hey, can undisclosed stay at the house, or stay in the room tonight? And I'm like, no. She's like, why not? I was like, I'm not gonna have a criminal stay in my room. Because this boy, when he worked for the ranch he worked for, he stole firearms from this dude and pawned them. And then, after he pawned them and got caught because the farmer caught him, said that the farmer had planted the pawn tickets in his wallet. But the thing is, you have to, like, when you pawn stuff, you have to give them your driver's license. Like, they take down all your information. And so he had committed a federal crime and was like, people were looking for him. So I was like, I'm not gonna have a criminal stay in our room. That can get us in trouble. And so she literally, like, she laughs maniacally and then hangs up. So I'm like, great, I'm gonna die. Like, she's gonna kill me in my sleep. This is the worst. So I stay at my big's house for a couple days. I say a couple. It was really more like 2 nights. And so I stay at her house, and I, like, get up and go to school, and then I go straight back to her house because my big is awesome. So, or I, like, stayed in my car one time because I was like, I finally go back to my room, and her mattress is gone. Like, gone. So I'm like, okay, so I tell my RL, and I'm like, what the hell? And he's like, oh yeah, she moved down the hall. Because she told our RC, which is our residential coordinator, which is my RL's boss, that I had threatened to kill her in her sleep, which was not true at all. So they were like, yeah, we're just diffusing a toxic situation. I'm like, toxic? She was the one who did this to me. Are you kidding me? So she comes in occasionally and she, like, gets stuff that she needs. And I'm, like, sitting there, like, throwing extra shade at her because I'm mad at her. And it was just this whole big thing. And we got into a yelling match. And then the next time I saw her, I was like, you're a bitch. And I hope you get what you deserve. And I hope you realize soon that your boyfriend is a problem. Because she had literally, like, her family did not approve of him, and she, like, dropped her family. Like, I kid you not. Like, her and her family don't talk. Like, she stays with her mom, and she stays with this boy, and, like, she cut herself off from everyone, and it just sucked. Anyway, so she was like, whatever. And then I ended up not having a roommate the next semester because they were like, I'm unfit to live with others. Like, I don't play well with others. So I was like, okay, whatever, I get a room to myself. And I, like, took her bed down and I, like, made my room my own. Like, no shame. I don't even care anymore. So yeah, that's what happened with my roommate. Don't move in with your friends from high school because it's a bad decision. So yeah,